Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Photographer's Favorites, where I pick out five of my favorite photos from another photographer, and my guest picks out five of their favorites as well. Today, I'm really excited to have Michael Aagaard with me. How's it going, Michael?
It's going very well. How are you, Ray? Thanks for having
I'm
me.
doing good, man. You were telling me right before we
Awesome.
started, you just had a pretty cool experience with some really amazing birds. What was that?
Yeah, funny enough,
Yeah,
apropos, I was just out looking for some short-eared owls, and I found them basically right away. And
nice.
I used to live in BC, just for anyone who kind of knows me, and now I moved back to Denmark. So in British Columbia, there was a couple of places there where you just have, I mean, insane opportunities with shorties. You have nine of
Yeah.
them just like flying around all day.
Wow.
Denmark, not the case. They're very rare here, and oddly enough, they're not really out in the day here. I was used to that in Canada. They're just out all day. Here, it's like early morning and just like around sunset.
That's what we get too.
And yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's BC. That's extraordinary. But
Yeah, you were
it was
lucky.
exciting just to find them. Yeah, yeah. But it was just cool to find them, and there too. And yeah, so I'm gonna. Uh, my experience with them is once you find out kind of where they hang out, that's kind of their routine. So good
Yep.
chance I can get in there. I'll bring my hide tomorrow. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Nice. That is awesome, man. Yeah, that's a great thing to find and not too far away, right?
Oh yeah. No, just like a couple of miles from where I live. So it was one of those weird experiences. We're like, nah, I'm probably not gonna find them. You're like, psh, okay.
Isn't it great when it works out, man? That just
Yeah.
makes the times when that happens so much more special because of all the other times when you've just been trying and trying and trying. It takes forever to find something. So when it happens
A
this
hundred
easy, you're
percent.
just like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's and after moving back to Denmark, I kind of had to start from scratch a bit, like just figuring everything
Sure.
out, learning the areas and the species and everything. So that's been a bit hard on me
Yeah.
because you have to put in so much time, and it kind of I feel like I've been really patient, but it's starting to pay off now. I have a trail cam up where I've located an active badger set, I believe
Cool.
it's called in English. So that's pretty exciting. On some private ground I have access to. So hopefully they'll still be there in spring, which that'll be crazy. The big
Yeah.
dream of mine. And a couple of other things. I have owls in the yard at night, so I set up a box there. They might come and hang out and stuff. So there's a couple of and there's one place I know that there's a Eurasian eagle owl, and that's really
Wow.
really because those things they're the same size as great grays, but
Yeah.
they weigh like three times as much. Like they are proper killers. Like the
Yeah.
great grays are very kind of in their, very polite, nice
Yeah.
creatures, and when they see an eagle come by, they like take off. But
Yeah.
the eagle owl on the other side, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a real tough guy.
Dude, good luck with that, man. Hope you get to see it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. You ready to get in the show?
Totally.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we're going to start with the first photo you picked out from Kevin Lip here. Just incredible photographer. And
Yes.
wow, speaking of short
Yes.
eared owls, just
Yes.
unbelievable. My favorite
Yeah.
style of lighting. So just
Oh,
perfect backlight on this.
yeah.
And the symmetry in this shot is incredible with the wings.
Mm.
Perfect head on view like that. But I
Oh,
got to say, I think it's really interesting that I really like how the head is kind of turned to the side as well. You
yes.
know, it somewhat breaks that symmetry right in the middle there, but
Yeah.
it really kind of clues you into like, oh, what's that bird? It's so actively hunting over there. And then the last thing I really love about this is just such a great inclusion of habitat here. Just
Yeah.
the in focus grasses in the bottom that fade to the out of focus grasses in the background. And
Yeah.
so, nice clean background, nothing distracting back there, but we get that kind of placement of where this bird is by seeing those in focus grasses down there. And just,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than this right here.
No, and that's actually the spot I was just talking about in BC.
Yeah.
Exactly that exact spot. And one of the really
Nice.
cool things there is you get those nice marsh, environments there, and it's a big area, so you get some of those really lovely backgrounds. But I agree that the head tilt is really cool because it kind of brings a different kind of action element to it,
Yeah.
instead of the head on, and then also with short-eared owls because their faces are so characteristic and they have like the black metal kind of paint
Yeah.
almost under their eyes and stuff. That's what you usually see, and I kind of like that that's not the focal point in this photo. And
Sure.
then I mean, this time of year uh, shorty dolls are a fan favorite, and there's just like social media is just basically flooded with
Yes.
photos of shorties, and a lot of them are just the same, like
Yep.
and it's
And
a
they're
lot
good
of them are,
photos. There's nothing wrong
yeah,
with them,
exactly,
but they're
no,
just
not at
it's a
all.
lot of the
Yeah.
same. You're right.
So it's rare that you see something actually unique, and this is in my book a very unique photo of a shorty, and I just absolutely I like warm earthy colors, so this is kind of right up my alley. And then
Yeah.
I just love the backlight through the bottom of the wings there, and
Perfect.
how, yeah, again, like I mentioned, it's the wings that get the attention, and not the face.
Yeah, I mean,
So
basically
yeah, just
that rim light is the subject of the photo. That shape, that
oh
glow,
yeah.
right? Like that's where your eye goes first, and then it starts to kind of dive into the darker area, and you pick up the face, and then the grass and all that. But man,
Ah,
first,
it's beautiful.
yeah, you go right to
It's
that.
beautiful.
So
And yeah, it's not easy to get a shot like that, for sure.
no,
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, Kevin is just such a brilliant photographer, and he puts a ton of time into his craft,
obviously, yep.
and gets stuff like this. What was I gonna say? I had another point about the
It's okay.
photo. Oh yeah, it's just such a good example also of how you can make backlit photos work. And I
Yep.
think maybe myself included, if I had this on the back of my camera, I might have gone like, oh, I wish the face was clearer. But
Yeah.
when it's someone else, I can be more objective about it and go like, hey, that works. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Definitely.
huge inspiration. This is one of the shots I wish I'd taken.
And from shooting a ton of backlight myself, this is one of those photos that I'm guessing when you look at it on the back of the screen, this whole area is probably just black. Like,
Yeah,
on the
I
original
imagine
exposure,
so.
it's just
Yeah,
not there.
yeah,
It doesn't show on that contrasty LCD outside. And you're just like, oh no. But, after doing it a while, you kind of realize like, oh, that's where you want that exposure to be. Cause then you can just
yeah,
kind of lift those shadows and get just a little bit of detail in there. So yeah, it
yeah,
works really well.
yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
let's hit the next one. Sticking with backlight.
Ooh, lovely. Red-throated loon. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, a couple of things stand out to me here that I think are really cool. I love the splashes from the feet,
Yeah.
and it's kind of cool that they're like quite far behind it, so you kind of get that sense of like
Yeah.
it's like moving pretty fast to get started. Not the most elegant birds when they try to take off.
No.
And then I do like that the reflection is a secondary element, in the sense that there's the mist that kind of tones down the reflection, so it's not one of those like
Yep.
uh, clear reflections. The mist is really cool. And then also something I think I find interesting here also is that you can't see the eye or anything, but it totally works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely more of like it's like a real close in between silhouette, but not quite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, I
But
love.
this guy Jonas in general is his photography. He's got some really good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said, and that fog and that mist, that glowing like that sets such a nice mood to a photo to me, and I really love the contrast of. It's just such a calm, peaceful thing when you see that mist and that fog hanging low like
Yeah,
that. But then there's
yeah,
the frantic nature of that bird just like blasting off in the middle of that. So it's like a really good contrast of calm and serene and just crazy action of this bird taking off. And I could imagine you could probably hear every one of those feet slapping on the water
yeah.
as it was taking off. You know what I mean? Just
Oh,
because it's
totally.
kind of calm and quiet. So yeah, it's just such a good mood and setting for this photo entirely. So it works really well.
Mist like that is awesome. I've had some. I mean, it's been so dark here for. I know I don't live in Alaska or way out north in Scandinavia and so on, but I mean, I almost prefer that to just the gray, the
Yeah.
just 100%, 20% overcast and rain we've had here for so long. So the thing is, and I keep I keep, I had a couple of mornings then where it was like, it looks like there's sun tomorrow, and then there's just fog all day.
Oh,
But not the cool kind of fog that makes
no,
things look cool. It's just the nasty fog that just
you
makes
can't see
every
through.
photo look soft and just
Yeah.
bleh. So yeah. So yeah, actually seeing something like this is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can appreciate it even more. Sure.
Oh yeah.
All right, next up, a really
Oh
fun
yeah.
nuthatch here. Yeah, yeah. Such a classic. But these birds are so good at doing such incredible, awkward looking poses, but they do them so often that it's just like it's classic. It really tells the story of that species.
Yeah.
I love the high key background here. Like the white
Yes.
on white works really well, but the exposure is done just right, so it's
Exactly.
not like bleeding off into the bird or anything like that. There's clear separation and definition of the bird, and then the angle here. I mean, you can tell it's straight up hanging upside down, but then the angle that the bird is kind of positioned in and how it almost, I mean, if you draw a line across the bottom of this, it's almost a perfect match for the angle
Mm.
of that log
Yeah.
there. So just like those lines kind of just visually coming through the photo that way looks so
Yeah.
nice. And then just great soft light in the eye there. Yeah, a really, really nice one from Tracy.
Yeah, I mean Tracy's one of my favorite photographers in general. It's just her stuff is just always on point. It's she's got a really good eye, I find, and also her composition is always just like I'm always like, yeah, you know. I've never seen her do anything where I'm like, that's creepy. I would have done that different. Most of it is
Sure.
like, sure, I wouldn't have thought of that. But the reason why I picked this photo, there's like multiple different reasons. One of them is because it's a nuthatch, and I love nuthatches. I haven't had the pleasure of photographing the white-chested ones, but
Okay.
in Canada, I was photographing the red-chested. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, red-chested,
Yeah.
and I've photographed them here in my yard, also in Denmark, the Eurasian one. And the
Okay.
funny thing is that they're basically identical, the two, except the Eurasian one is like 3 times as big,
Oh, wow.
which is just odd. It's just odd seeing it has all the same colors and everything. It's just a hell of a lot bigger. It's
It's
just a
just
weird thing.
supersized.
Yeah, it's like a yeah. um, um, and then also like you said, hanging upside down, the nuthatch is the only bird that can actually crawl down a tree, down a log, while
Head
upside
down.
down with his head down, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, they have those odd poses, and then also nuthatches are just really funny. They just have their
Yeah,
personalities. They're like
they really do.
total bullies. Like you'll like out in my yard, it'll be like a Disney movie, and like, oh, all the other birds are getting along, and they're like taking turns at the feeder, and then Nuthatch shows up and just puts a
Yeah.
stop to it, like just chases everybody away so it can
All
have the
noisy.
feeder for itself. And then it
Yeah.
like nibbles a bit and takes off, and then all the birds come back, and then Nuthatch comes back. It's so weird.
That's so
And
funny,
then
man.
another thing that I really really like about this photo is like you said, the use of the high key background and so on, and then getting that exposure right
Yeah.
with the white on the bird. That's really difficult, and it's something I struggle with because I mean we've had so much overcast weather here, but I'm not. I'm just not really satisfied when I try to do high key stuff. Maybe I just have to get used to it, but I'm always like, nah. So it's just nice. This is very inspirational for me because it's like a great example, I think, of how to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. What do you think of that one?
Oh,
Mixing up a little bit here, getting away from
yeah,
birds.
yeah. Yeah, there must be a drone shot. I assume.
I don't know. Yeah. You know what? Let's read on
Or a
that one.
helicopter or something.
Or if they were just looking down through the water, like they could have been higher.
Oh, yeah. To me, okay. What my perception was off the bat was it's very, very shallow water,
But it could have been a
but
little
yeah, no,
deeper.
that might be the case. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
I don't
right.
know.
Okay. Hey, but that in itself is interesting that we already have like a discussion about the photo, trying to figure out how they got
Exactly.
it. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Totally.
I I like it. I mean, you can immediately. It's kind of interesting actually how you immediately know it's a shark
Yeah.
because there's how do you know that? I think it's ingrained in humans, like
Yeah. You're
danger and
right.
stuff, so you can pick
That
out those
shape.
shapes. It's weird how you recognize that just like that, even though you can't see any eyes or gills or anything. Maybe it
Yeah.
has to do with the tail that's a bit tilted, so you get that shape too. But
Yep.
no, I think it works very well. It's interesting also that it's just completely dead center, which works in this case. And
It
then
does. Yeah.
the contours of the sand and the different colors like bouncing off it is really cool. And then is that a little fish in front
You
of
know
it?
what? I don't know actually.
Because
I'm
that would be
trying
really
to
rad.
read. Yeah, I don't know. It does look like a little tiny fish right there, you know.
Hey,
Yeah.
buddy.
Right? Oh yeah, it says right there as it
Oh, yeah.
chased a fish. Yeah.
Nice. That's very
Yeah.
cool. That's a very
That
cool
is
shot.
really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, the first thing that really stood out to me was actually like the colors and the texture. The texture of that sand against the like the dark bold lines of the shark, I think was like a good it just kind of worked together nicely. And then when I looked at it a little bit more, it's just like that gradient across where it's just like
Yeah.
darker blue over here
Yeah.
and then it fades to the
Yeah.
lighter over on that side. And then the shark is like right in the middle of that gradient. So again,
Yeah.
talking about that center composition you mentioned,
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works perfectly because it's not
Mhm.
in the dark, it's not in the light, it's right in the middle of that transition, which is pretty amazing.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I agree. Just the fact that the fin, there's good symmetry there to make it centered, but then the one little bit off, right? Like the tail just
Yeah.
kind of
It's really
curling off
cool.
that way
Yeah.
to just make everything just a little bit more natural, because it's in nature. Usually everything isn't perfectly perpendicular and lined up and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just I don't know,
That's
man.
very cool.
Scrolling through it, just like was one of those graphical images that just jumped right out at me.
Oh, totally. Yeah. As soon as you showed me, it's like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's very, very cool.
yeah. All right, let's see what we got up next. Good old Brad. Speaking of
Yeah.
symmetry,
That's very.
yeah. Speaking of the symmetry, just incredible having these two common mergs facing each other like that. The bills almost perfectly in line with each other there. Back to that beautiful backlit, foggy morning stuff. And this is a really cool shot. If people know their waterfowl, you can identify this species, the exact species, without even seeing it, just based
Yeah. You're
on the
right.
shape of the silhouette. And I think
Yeah.
that is when a silhouette is done properly, that you can usually it's nice to be able to just tell kind of close to what the species is. But in this case, it's like, I know that's a common merganser based on the shape of the little tiny hook on the bill, just the shape of the head there. It just screams common merganser.
Yeah. Yeah. It
And
does.
man, yeah, it's just, you can't go wrong with Brad. He's always doing amazing stuff with waterfowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
this is a perfect example of it.
I actually mistook them for loons when I saw it first on, but I was on my phone where it was smaller.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, no. When you have a closer look, it's you're right. It's very clear that it's that those are mergansers. I love the mist. I mean, the mist here is nuts,
it
and
was
combined
so
with
good.
it almost look and yeah, combined with the warm colors there, it almost looks like you're looking into what's it called? One of the, like molten metal.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
like lava and
almost like
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it almost looks like something like that, like in a foundry. You know, when they have those big
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
things with molten metal in there, it almost looks
Yeah.
like something like that, like they're floating around in something mystical and magical. And also because like the background is so dark, and then the mist is lighter in the not in the foreground, but in the
Yeah.
not so distant background. Yeah, it just works so well, I think. And then I'm always amazed with photos like this where you can pull off silhouettes like this. It just
Yep.
yeah, it's really beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing that you can just imagine yourself laying there and kind of just hear. It's
Yeah,
just so peaceful and quiet. And,
yeah.
as a photographer, I can imagine myself laying there going, oh my God, this is perfect for photos,
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's lovely. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's one of those moments where you're like,
Exactly. Yep.
you have to
Yep.
be quiet, but you're like,
Yeah. When you get that
yeah,
weather conditions that work out like that, because it doesn't happen often, so you got to take advantage of it.
no, yeah, and yeah, exactly, and yeah, and you got to be there also, like you said.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have to come together for something like that to work, and also you don't have any nasty something in the background and so on. Yeah, it's
Totally.
beautiful.
Yep. Just works really well all around. Well, sticking with the backlight, here we got another one.
Yes, that is very, very cool.
Yeah.
What species? Oh, it's a
I
plover.
think either black bellied or golden. Not sure if it's in. Yeah, I mean, he says plover, doesn't say which,
Yeah.
but uh,
No,
yeah.
that's a beautiful shot. It's really interesting how, I mean, I love how the light is just up in the corner here, and then the rest is
Right?
dark,
Yeah,
and
it's a
then
nice
and
gradient.
then also and also the just the detail that the only like most of it is just color,
Yep.
black, and then the warm color up there, but then you just have a few of the blades of grass there.
Yeah.
that make I think they complement the photo really well, because that makes it a bit more natural setting, or whatever you want to say.
You're right.
So and also again, like, it's just great example of, a more artistic photo, where it's the I mean, the bird is not tiny in the frame at all. It takes up quite a bit of space, but it's just there's a harmony. It's not like here's a bird. It's like it's the whole together that makes it beautiful. Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely. I love that sense of space in this photo. The fact that there's a lot of dark over here on this side that kind of is the opposite of the gradient from the light sun there. It almost gives a sense of mystery to it. You kind of, I almost want to see what's out there, but I don't, because then it'll change the mood of this photo. And that's another thing. That's kind of the first thing that hit me when I saw this, was the mood. Just like the photo we just looked at, I think those backlit shots where there's just really nice golden glow, whether it be fog or in this case, just almost, the little bit of the flare from the lens is, I think, what's causing that gradient. You can see a little bit leftover lens flare on the left side there.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it just sets such an incredible mood to a photo that almost never happens when you're shooting front lit photos. It's very rare for me to see a front lit photo that just has that kind of mood to it, that staring into the sun, darker, dramatic mood to it. And this kind of lighting, I think, just excels at doing that.
Oh, totally. And it's something I definitely want to do more of it. Obviously, I need some sunlight to be able to do it, to be able to practice. That's the thing that killed me last winter, also in BC, because it was like my last winter there, and it was just there was just no sunlight.
Yeah.
And I lived like one block from the from the ocean, and there was just tons of ducks and everything out there, but every day was just.
I remember.
I had a handful of days, but it's just very different when you have multiple chances of doing something like this, or just having nice sun where you're not desperate. Like you have that one day and it's all like complete panic, like you have to get down.
Must
there
get everything.
Yeah, exactly. And then also because I was spending a lot of time photographing the harlequin ducks.
Yes,
they were just so insanely skittish, and there was. I just kept having my timing off, and I was trying to do a video also, and I could never complete the video. And one of the reasons why I blew it was like 3 times in a row. I was down on the beach trying to do an intro, like, blah, 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 and then they would fly in before I was done, and be like, whoops, and be gone again. I'm like,
oh, that's rough. That's rough, man.
You see them like you're doing an intro, and they're like, la, 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 la. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Stupid intro.
Intro to nothing. Intro to the ducks leaving. Yeah. Before, I just want to mention one thing as I was still staring at this photo. One other thing I think that kind of is interesting to me, that kind of ties the grass into the bird, like that little thin rim light on the bird is the exact same kind of little thin glow on those grasses there. And it's just like a neat pattern that kind of connects the bird to those grasses in the way the light's hitting it there. So I thought that was a nice little touch too.
Oh, for sure. Very nice.
Oh, look at this, man. That is so cool. The whole family out. It's like the family out to dinner. Like that's what it is. Oh, I love the title here too. The Feast. Yeah. Yeah, really cool. Love how they're all, dude, how does this happen? They are all facing you. Like this is the one that is like the least facing you, but it's still facing it. We can still see its face. Like how do you get 6 of them out, 6 muskrat out without any of them facing the wrong way? So just incredible there.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then color palette wise, they're darker and more brown. So having them against the snow and ice there is great to have them stand out. So any lower in the perspective, putting them against the brown, I think their shapes wouldn't quite stand out as much. So I think that's a great move on her part of keeping them just out of the brown, but then having that brown color up there to kind of complement and give some, horizon context back there. You can see the back edge of the lake or river, whatever it is that they're on. And then this one, the last little bit is funny. Is like the longer you look at this, I think there's like some food that's like stuck on the top of that one there that it just like doesn't know about. But and so cool to see like the little paws and the claws up there just holding the food. It's such a cute little pose on these guys. So very well done.
when I first thought I thought they were beavers.
Okay.
It took me a little bit to figure out actually that they were muskrats, but again, it was on the phone. It was smaller, but
Sure.
yeah, I think it's also just for some reason when I saw it, I in my mind I imagined them kind of beaver size.
Okay.
But but obviously muskrats are a lot smaller. It's just funny with perspective like that
Sure.
sometimes. But no, I think it's just such I don't know. There's something about it I can't explain. It's just so funny with all these guys like going at it like all of them like, and then I just think it's such a fantastic example of perspective getting really low.
Yeah.
Because like if Luis Marie had been standing up and shooting at an angle,
Yeah.
it wouldn't really have been particularly interesting. And I'm not. I mean, this is an awesome photo. It's just if you're shooting like this, it would have been like,
Agreed.
oh, look at them eating. But this just like it's completely.
You're right there in there with them. Yep.
Yeah. And then also when I was chatting with her about the photo, and she said that she was like crawling full on commando style.
Oh, no kidding.
Or over the ice to get closer to them, and obviously they were focused on eating and stuff, but still those are two things that I really respect with other photographers, is when you are willing to go the extra mile. And I don't mean anything for the photo in the sense that you're going to harass the animals, but anything for the photo in the sense of how you're willing to what you're willing to put yourself
sacrifice
through.
Yes,
exactly. And and just it's to me it's it's logical that you get down and stuff like that, and I can't help myself, and like sometimes I wish I could, but it's like I don't think about it. So I think that's really cool with other photographers also when they do that, and it's so obvious here. And then also the stalking skill here. I mean, being able to get nice and close to them without interrupting them is very cool. And I think also a skill that's just as far as interrupting them and stuff. It's very it's a good skill to have. The Danish photographer Morten Hilmer, who has a very popular YouTube channel.
Yes.
One of the things I found very inspiring with him was he was talking about, like, for him, like the ultimate thing is being able to get in and get out.
Yeah.
Without the animal noticing you. And that really kind of clicked for me, because I was like, yeah, of course. Because it's like, at first it was like, yeah, sure, get in.
Sure.
Then you don't scare them, but get out, it doesn't matter. But it's like, it totally matters to the animal and its behavior. Yes. So that stuck with me a little bit, in the sense that it's kind of that is pretty cool. You can get in, get out, leave them alone. So totally. Yeah, they're just a great photo. And like you mentioned, I do also really like the detail of the reeds or whatever it is in the background there.
Yeah.
Because I think, if it had just been ice, it probably wouldn't have worked as well. And also if it had been only the dark background. So I think that line is really good. And you had a very good point that I didn't even think of myself, that it was just perfect that their heads are just under the darker background there. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I just want to elaborate on some of those points you just made, talking about the getting in and out. Number one, I think it's really interesting to a lot of new photographers to think like there's no cover. It's just wide open space. Like, that's what I imagine in this case, if she's crawling out through on ice. And, it's the same with shorebirds. And a lot of people are kind of like, oh, how do you get close? And it's amazing when you move low and slow, how close you can actually get to subjects without them having a clue you're there or disturbing them at all, and that is the key. Just, slow, steady behavior, but the key, staying low. When you're a low perspective like that, they either don't see you, or if they do see you, you're non-threatening and they don't mind. So that's really helpful. And then I just wanted to also add on the getting in and out part. I think that's a great point that you made, and kind of relaying that from Morten Hilmer. And the other thing that I think it applies to a lot is when you start revisiting locations multiple times, because if you're going to find some wildlife in a certain area and you want to go back and photograph them again, well, obviously you want to also, in addition to the first priority of not bothering the wildlife, getting out without disturbing them allows them to stay there and be comfortable for you to come back again, and exactly. Like if you just go in to try and get your shot and then just stand up and walk away and flush them and scare them, well, there's a chance that they might not be back there again, either ever or, in the same spot. And that won't let you go back and get another opportunity with them. And revisiting these locations is when some of these amazing opportunities can come up. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes people might have, I used to have that too, but maybe a limited perspective on camouflage and stealth. I was listening to some podcast where there were a couple of guys talking about how one of the guys was like, "Ah, I don't use camouflage and stuff. I get the animals to trust me," kind of thing. Where
Oh
it's like
yeah.
that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
So you're habituating the animals to get your that's and so camouflage is not only necessarily about you getting your shots. It's also about blending in and not you know not bothering the environment
Yep.
in general too much. And I find sometimes that, yeah, and I mean, in a sense, the ultimate thing, I guess, is being completely hidden in a hide. So,
Yeah.
and I think but also the intimacy you get when the animals are just,
Yep.
as opposed to them being comfortable with you being there, they just have no clue you're there.
There's a
The
difference.
intimacy and yeah, and you get the real behavior, which I think is really interesting too. Um, and there's species that don't care you're there and stuff, but it's to me there's always a difference when they just have no clue you're there,
Agreed. Yeah.
and
Yeah, totally
just
agree. I think
start
it's
doing
neat
stuff.
when they, yeah, it's neat when they trust you. If you can gain that trust, and then it's more. I wouldn't say it's a trust thing. I think it's more of a tolerate thing, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's neat when they will tolerate you, and they obviously know you're there, but I find there to be a big difference between that and when they don't know you're there and just
Oh
the
yeah,
way they behave. And to
yeah.
be able to witness that behavior and capture it when they don't have a clue you're there, to me that's the next level up. That's even more special.
Oh, it's incredible. And then also just in general, when you get to witness something like this, it's just so cool. And especially like if you're alone or just with one person, it's just such a great feeling. It's just you're just like, oh God, I'm so lucky right now. I get to
Yep.
witness this, and it's rare and far between examples like this. But it's just so cool when you get that, and it's just it. For me anyways, and I'm sure for you
I
too,
agree.
it
Yeah.
just gets everything going, like
Yep.
all the dopamine and everything. You're just like, oh man,
Oh
just
yeah.
totally high on life afterwards. You're like, oh man, I can't believe I just got to witness that. That's
Me and
really
one of
cool.
my mentorship students were out the other day photographing hooded mergansers. 2 days prior to when we
Hmm.
photographed at the spot, we had scouted the location together. So we scouted it midday, saw good potential there. Went back 2 days later, early in the morning, full hour before sunrise. Went in, and then at one point we had, I'm not lying, 40 hooded mergansers like 30 feet in front of us. Just a massive
How
amount
many?
of them, like 40.
40?
Yeah, I've never seen numbers like this. It was insane.
Whoa.
And then on top of that,
Whew.
we had Michael, the first 5 minutes of sunlight was coming in, streaming in and
Oh,
hitting. So, like, within five
oh,
minutes after the actual sunrise, the light was already cleared
uh,
the distant trees and was shining in. So, the best light.
oh,
So, we shot for an hour with these birds right in front of us.
oh,
No distractions. If they knew that we were there, they would maybe just swim away a little bit, but then there were so many, then they would just kind of come right back into that cove. So just we
amazing.
were in the hides, right? So it was like they didn't know we were there, and we're just shooting, and both of us had mirrorless cameras, so completely silent, and we're just lighting these birds up. And then when it was time to leave, I kind of sat up a little bit, just enough to get them to like, oh, there's something there. They all
Uh,
moved away. We waited till they swam away a good distance and then got out of there. Same thing we're just talking about, right? To try not to really flush them and spook them,
awesome.
because there was no way for me to get out of there without them seeing
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So but in any case, we do that, and as soon as we were like clear of where they could see us, it's just like high fives, and you're smiling and cheering. You're just like, I can't believe we just had
Oh
that
man.
experience of this many birds
Oh,
right in front of us for an hour, feeding, diving, courtship, just everything happening right there in front of us. Such an amazing experience.
Jesus,
Yeah,
that's
it was really
amazing.
cool. Yeah.
Oh man, I love hooded mergansers. I'm not. I think maybe they show up rarely here, once in a
Okay.
blue moon, but
Yeah.
that's one of the species that I wish I had had more time to photograph in BC. I did get a handful of good shots of them and
Sure.
stuff, but they just look so cool, the males. It's
They
just
are.
they're
Yeah.
just so funky looking, like these new wave punk birds kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Totally.
It's just hilarious. And then
Totally.
I unfortunately I got they weren't good enough to really use for anything, but I had a couple of shots of them flying in, trying to
Oh,
land, and
nice.
that's just like But it's just hilarious because it seems like they have no control of what they're doing
Right.
whatsoever. It's like, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to go for it.
So many ducks. Yeah. It's like right before they land, it's like they've just given up and they just fall.
Complete panic. But also they have these tiny wings, the mergansers.
Exactly.
Hilarious little birds.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get on to the next photo. Something really different here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ever seen anything like that? I'm curious to see if you can figure this out. So this was not done in post. This was legit shot this way.
Are those like dandelions or something floating in the wind, or?
No, I think it's just he was shooting through some foreground that had some sparkling light on it. You know, like the light was hitting some of the stuff in the foreground, like grasses and stuff. So
that's really interesting.
The shape of those circles, he shot this with a mirror lens. Have you ever heard of those? Yeah, so you can get like I think 500 millimeter lenses that are like this big, like that long, and like maybe this big around. And so the way it works is there's actually, like when you look at the front element of it, it's actually like a donut shape because there's a mirror in the middle of it and it magnifies everything. You get so much focal length in a small compact thing because the image comes into the lens, it bounces back to the mirror and then into the viewfinder, like into the sensor. So you get a ton of magnification in a small package, but what it also does is it creates circular bokeh. Out of what would be a full solid circle on a regular lens, it creates this donut bokeh like that. So regular, just what we would normally have is like, standard solid balls of light now become these rings of light. And it gives just a very completely and utterly different look to the photo. And he just shot through some foreground stuff with some light hitting, I think probably grasses or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool.
Pretty trippy, isn't it?
It's super trippy, yeah.
Yeah. When I came across this, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm still kind of just wrapping my head around it, kind of like figuring it out. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I just love that. Like, it was just such a unique, different looking photo,
Oh, totally.
To have like it almost looks like it was digitally created with some effect on it or something like that. But again, a great example of what can be done with backlight, like that's like he wouldn't have had this bokeh and the lovely rim light around the ears. And I love the way the deer is just kind of like leaned in and curved in. The ears are pointing in this way. And it almost looks like this bokeh is like swirling in this direction in some spots. So there's just a lot of neat aspects to it.
Yeah. That's why I thought at first, when dandelions have the little, whenever they drop their flowers and stuff. And they have the little floaty things.
Sure. Yeah.
You blow on them and they drift off. I thought it was something like that at first, but oh wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like that. And I've never heard of that lens either. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they're dirt cheap. You can get like a 500 millimeter lens for like $200 or something like that. Yeah.
But they're probably, you can probably only do stuff like this with it. I assume.
I think you need really bright light for them. I think they're really high aperture lenses, so you need a lot of light. And it's a little bit more for like interesting effect than anything else, I think.
Yeah, I imagine like birds in flight and stuff would not.
Probably not. I don't think so. I don't think so. But seeing something like this is almost like for that price, man, that'd be interesting to just have it in your kit for like to just do some really weird, different stuff in certain scenarios,
with the common kingfishers here, like with all their crazy colors, that would be really interesting to do something.
Yeah, it would be.
Like
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Speaking of, how's that timing? Yeah. And look, and I think this is the first. We each picked a photo from this photographer in this episode. So, he's getting a good plug on this one, and deservedly so.
Oh, totally.
Man, no color in this photo except for the bird. That's just incredible. Sure, there's a little brown from the cattail or whatever it is up there, but it's barely color out there. Yeah. And you know what else is really interesting about this? Obviously, like my attention goes right to the bird in the first place. I love the spacious composition. It really shows off that habitat. But when you really look at this habitat, it's busy habitat. There's a lot of just diagonal strong lines, kind of crisscrossing, going all over the place there. Yet none of it is visually distracting. due to the fact that it's covered in frost and snow, and the white just kind of blends together, and he's shooting through. Some of it is foreground here, it looks like, so it's out of focus and hiding some of the stuff in the background, and he just found like just the right opening here. And I love that pretty much, if I look at this photo, every single line in this photo is a hard straight line except for the bird, right? Even the perch, just a boom, strong angular line. Everything back here, straight, straight, straight. They're angled all different ways, but they're all straight, hard lines. And then just the soft curves of the little plump round bird sitting there is just, just such a complimentary way to have that bird stand out in this, what would otherwise be a busy scene. I think if you didn't have the frost and the snow there, this scene would probably just be visually distracting.
Oh yeah, it would be horrible.
Yeah.
But with the frost there, it just completely changes everything. But I also think it's because I think we have connotations to something magical when it's kind of frosty and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't generalize all humans, but a lot of us, I think there is something like when you see like a frosty or snowy scene, there's just some kind of a thing that happens. But another interesting thing here I find is that the kind of cool blue colors of the kingfisher, especially the one streak that they have down the back, works so well with the frosty environment there. So if it had been another color, if it had been only rufous, it wouldn't have worked the same way, I don't think.
Totally.
It complement each other.
There we go.
I'm not a native English speaker.
Yes.
And then also, like, I love these birds. I've been shooting them quite a bit after I got to Denmark here. It took me a while, to find them. And one thing I always reiterate with these, especially if you're used to the Baltic kingfishers, is that these are like a third of the size.
Yeah.
They're about 7 inches, so they're about the size of a pygmy owl. They are tiny, and like compared to the belted kingfisher, which can seem small, like these, they are so small, and they have a very subtle call compared to the belted ones.
Okay.
So it's a lot harder to find them because they're just. What often happens is you'll kind of see them just like the rocket,
they look like they'd be fast flyers.
Lightning bolt. Oh yeah, when they fly by, it's just, but now I've spent enough time looking for them that I react to the calls. I know them, and I've tuned my eyes, so I kind of know what to look for. But they are. It takes a lot of work with them and quite a bit of patience. The one thing that's a little bit convenient about them is that as soon as you're in a hide or a camouflage, they're pretty confident, and you can kind of move the lens a bit. As soon as they see a human shape, they're out of there. They will not tolerate humans close to them. Yeah. But as soon as you cover up, they're pretty workable.
Nice.
And also it's kind of weird because in Danish they're called the little isfugl.
Okay.
Probably the same region. Isfugl, a little bit different, which literally translated means an ice bird, which makes no sense at all because they can't hunt where there's ice. There must be some other explanation for it. It just makes zero sense because
the back, like the color on the back, maybe almost looks like they're like frozen in ice, kind of. Yeah.
But if there's ice, they literally die because they can't.
Yeah, really.
But knowing that also, just for me anyways, puts this into a little bit of a kind of a different emotional context in the sense that this kingfisher could be having a really hard time too, Sure. So it's kind of, there's that perspective too.
Hopefully it's by a swift running river that's open.
It probably is.
Yeah.
And then also it's just different, it's different seeing a common kingfisher in this setting with
I don't see many kingfisher photos in snow and ice like that. Just it's not something you see a lot of. I agree. Yeah. So excellent, man. Yeah, well, nice choice on this one. All right, last photo. Mm-hmm. Sticking with the snow and ice.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's from BC. I never found it.
You're like, nice, right? Just throw that in my face.
yeah, totally. Lynx are just beautiful. They're just such awesome, mysterious cats, and they have like the sideburns that are so cool.
Yep.
Which I love, and then obviously the ear tufts.
Yeah.
And the big wide nose too. And then one thing I think is really nice here is the bit of snow and the fur.
Yes.
It's probably pounced on something, you know, like a mouse or something before, and it's you know, it's got some snow on not the mouth, what's it called, muzzle, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
What's snout?
Yeah, I don't know
Front
what
of
you would
its
call
face.
it. I would just stick with mouth. Front in this area.
Yeah, exactly. Snow in this general area. Yeah, and then also the stare I think is really cool because it's just
That's
like,
what got me on this one.
focused on it. But I really like the ear tufts on this one too.
Yeah.
And they're kind of pointed back a little bit. It's a little bit unusual. Yeah, that's a really, really cool photo. It's a bit busy in the background and foreground, but the cat itself is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a look of kind of being like immersed in that environment with it, you know? And
Yeah, that's cool.
that's
Yep,
what
yep.
that's what really stood out to me was this isn't just the clean, perfect, you know, pretty
Yeah,
open snow
sure.
scene.
Yeah,
Like this is this cat hunting where it's
yeah,
hunting. And that's what it really
yeah,
looks like it's doing. It's
yeah,
that like this is a more of a behavioral shot than a portrait, you know? And that's
yeah,
what really struck me is I don't see that often. I've seen a lot of portraits where, you know, obviously the lynx is aware of the photographer and they're staring right at him, or
That's
maybe
a good
just
point.
kind of walking off kind of thing.
Yeah,
And this indicates to me that either, you know, going back to our earlier conversation, either it was tolerating the photographer and just totally didn't care about him, or didn't know the photographer was there. And it has that intense stare, you know, the space that was left on the composition
yeah.
off to the left here. You can imagine that it's just staring right at something. And this looks like a moment in this cat's life of it just doing its thing. And that's what really stood out to me in
Oh,
this
totally.
photo.
And also, it would have. I like the fact that it's not tighter
Yeah.
because, like you said, like the direction, you know,
Yep.
directional cue or whatever it's called, the way it's looking and so on, does a lot. So if it had been tighter, you wouldn't have gotten that. Oh,
Agreed.
it's a gorgeous cat, and I love
Yeah,
that you
it is.
can see the sideburns there.
I know. Yeah. Just hanging down right
Yeah,
there.
it's such a
Yep.
rad,
Yeah. Yeah. It is
such a
cool.
rad cat. You can.
All right, dude.
I think the males and females. I think the males and females are completely identical, aren't they? Or is
I
one
think
bigger
so.
than the
Yeah.
other
I don't
when it
know.
comes?
I don't know. Maybe there's a size difference between them, but I think in the look of them, I think
Mm,
they look pretty much the same. Yeah. I'm not really sure though.
yeah.
I've certainly never seen one myself. So one day, that's the hope. But yeah, dude, nicely done, man. We did it. That was a great episode, man. You chose some really good stuff. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. That was a ton of fun, man. And it was fun seeing the photos you chose too. And yeah, big up to Jonas for
Yes. Yeah.
making
Getting
two
the double.
photos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
and before we wrap it up, I want to give a plug to something you and I did not too long ago. Speaking of the
Yes.
kingfishers, we
Hmm.
put together a whole video
Yep.
about how we've approached and worked with and dealt with and struggled with photographing belted kingfishers, and now the common kingfisher over there in Europe. So definitely check that out on the YouTube channel as well. And we're also working on a second video that's going to be coming out soon in the near future on Michael's channel. So stay tuned for that as
Yes.
well.
Yes. And for the Kingfisher one, it's a long one.
Yeah.
You can kind of, you know, jump through it, but the feedback we've both gotten, it seems people have been really happy with it. And the reason why we did that video, if people have ever tried shooting belted kingfishers, they know how difficult it is. And we've
Yeah.
both spent tons of time doing it. So we thought it was fun to put together a video, which is, you know, a kind of a deep dive into everything about how to photograph these birds. So yeah, check it out.
Definitely, man. Yeah, definitely. Dude, thank you so much. It was great having you on. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Tune in next Saturday. I'll have another one of these ready to go.